Hello, and welcome back to Tropics Talk. Meteorologist Jim Dickey here in the ABC7 Hurricane Center. Plenty to talk about, so let's get right to it. We're tracking broad low pressure here in the western Caribbean Sea, the southern Gulf of Mexico. Not tough to pick this out on the satellite presentation. This broad area of cloud coverage stretching from the Florida Keys now all the way back to Mexico. Now, you see the blow up of thunderstorm activity jumping off your screen in and around the Yucatan. Zoom in on that going on there. All signs that, again, the atmosphere very much unstable in this location. The actual residual sort of mid-level swirl from what's left of Agatha is still back over Mexico, and that's just some thunderstorm activity flaring ahead of it. If anything, it's a sign for us here in Florida that regardless of, actual organization with this going forward, dynamics in place in the atmosphere to produce some intense thunderstorms. You can even make out a little bit of spin, even from this far off, it appears, in these storms that are working their way through the western Caribbean Sea right now. So the Hurricane Center, their latest update, giving this a 70% chance to come together as we go through the next couple of days, as this all sort of broadly lifts its way to the north and east. This could become a new depression, a new tropical storm, because it was declared to have dissipated entirely and would reform. It would get a new name if it were to become a tropical storm or subtropical storm. That name would be Alex. The main threat here for Southwest Florida is heavy rain and flooding, as we will cover in detail going forward here. But let's first talk about intensity with this. A lot of times later in the season, you see a disturbance like this moving into the Gulf and you become concerned. You worry about rapid intensification, this ramping up to become a strong tropical storm or hurricane, even as this doesn't have a lot of time to get to the coast. I don't think that's the case with this one because we are so early in the season. So when we talk about the ingredients for tropical formation, we look for three things. Warm surface waters, deep warm water as well, but generally speaking, temperatures above 78 degrees Fahrenheit, deep tropical moisture, and low wind shear, meaning basically calm conditions, calm outside conditions from that tropical system, so it can spin itself up, become more or less vertically stacked, and not have some stronger winds aloft to sort of get in the way of that, topple it, keep it from becoming that perfect heat engine it wants to become. As you look at the atmospheric moisture, this was a hurricane before it moved into Mexico, so no surprise. There's a whole lot of deep tropical moisture in place. You can really see it with that thunderstorm activity going now southeast of Cancun. But it's a whole envelope of tropical moisture that stretches northward all the way to the Keys. There is some dry air in place over the northern Gulf that is not going to impact what is trying to come together here, not going to get in the way of the rainfall. Although, I do think as this starts to come together, you're going to start to watch some of that drier air being sucked southward towards it, which should lead to a pretty sharp cutoff in the rain totals. North and west of the center of where this is tracking, that dry air comes in, that's going to lessen the rain. East and south of the track of this, going to get absolutely soaked as that plume of moisture that's right now in the western Caribbean lifts its way northward. You'll see that in the model runs I'm about to show you with the rain totals. There's the water temperatures, definitely warm enough to support tropical formation, but this is what is really going to hold it back, the wind shear. There's a whole lot of strong upper-level winds, to say the very least, in place right now. There's an upper low sitting off to the west of Florida. The jet stream is actually dipping southward, the southern branch of the jet stream through Mexico, sort of to provide that broad low pressure that we're tracking with this. And then, as I zoom out, the jet stream itself, it's still across the middle of the country. Because it's June, the jet stream hasn't really retreated to its far northern reaches into Canada just yet. So with all of that in play, it's going to be tough for this to become a purely well-developed tropical system. In all likelihood, we're talking something sloppy, perhaps a hybrid subtropical type storm. It will take energy not just from the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, but from that sort of trough, that dip in the jet stream. There's a strong upper level low swirling over parts of central Canada that, given that little dip in the jet stream, that should give this extra kick. And again, you see that strong southern branch of the jet stream too. Bottom line, the southeast U.S., broad southwesterly upper level flow, that's going to draw whatever is in the western Caribbean here northward towards Florida, the Florida Straits, the Keys going forward. So here's the latest on this when we look at what's changed sort of overnight. This is headed towards the Gulf of Mexico, the western Caribbean. As I showed you, those storms are out there in the waters now. The models have been trending further northward. And I should specify the American or GFS model has been trending northward, showing a higher likelihood of impacts, direct impacts, here in Florida and southwest Florida specifically. The chances for, at the very least, heavy rainfall look to be increasing. The GFS yesterday, this actually going back to my last recording on Monday, showed most of the tracks of this low pressure area as it tries to come together, going across Cuba and the Florida Straits, staying south of the Florida Peninsula overall. But look at the shift in this morning's run. Now just about all those tracks cut across Florida. All of them show a weak system. Only a few even bring the winds up towards 40 and 50 knots. But again, it's much closer to Florida. Most of the lines are now over Central and South Florida. And then the European model hasn't really blinked. It continues to show in its ensemble. Remember what this is showing you. Each line, we've sort of tweaked that European forecast model a number of different ways. You then run it out a number of different ways. When all the lines sort of show the same thing, you have more confidence. And the European has just been locked in on this cuts across southwest Florida, somewhere between Tampa and the Naples area, and goes to the northeast. Now, also of note, one thing that is also trending in the European, showing a weaker system, showing the winds with this 30 to 40 knots. So still keeping this fairly disorganized as it moves onshore, but that shouldn't hinder it with all that tropical moisture from producing rainfall. Here's the American or GFS forecast model showing a blow up of rain and storms as this moves its way towards the coast. It shows very weak and disorganized low pressure. In fact, it barely even closes off an isobar. You have to zoom out and get back to Cuba to show a closed low there, but it would have localized low pressure moving into South Florida. And here is the rain totals from this. This is zoomed in on southwest Florida, showing a broad 2 to 4 South Lee County into Collier County. Less as you go northward, like I talked about. This is going to drag in some dry air as it moves through, so there will be a sharp cutoff to the rain totals. The question is, how far does that heavy rain get? And in fact, I haven't put pixel queries on this, but you look into Monroe County, Miami-Dade, Broward, the GFS in the latest run putting down 10 plus inches of rain in some locations. So definitely coming around to the idea that Florida could see some heavy rain from this. And then there's the European forecast model. It does close off sort of that surface swirl, but still shows broad, elongated low pressure, but also shows a whole lot of rainfall out there. Yeah, speaking to that, it would be weak in that forecast solution. It shows about 30 mile per hour winds below tropical storm force, so not much of a wind threat. But man, look at that rain. 4 to 6 inches of rainfall broadly across southwest Florida. Some spots picking up 6 plus. And you have to bear in mind, here in parts of southwest Florida, Fort Myers in particular, we just closed out the 4th rainiest May on record. Just in the past couple days, we've seen nearly 4 inches of rainfall. You put an additional 4 to 6 on top of that, that's going to lead to some flooding. So as we look at the threats, the potential impacts from this, heavy rain, flooding, the primary concerns. Timing-wise, talking late Friday into Saturday, that's when the heaviest of the rain would spread in, and that's when we'd have, in all likelihood, some big issues going on the roadways. Winds not looking like a huge threat. This isn't something at this point that's looking like you need to put up the storm shutters, anything like that. There could be winds towards or over tropical storm force, especially in gusts. At times, that'd be 40 miles per hour, but I don't think anything like what the winds they saw when this moved onshore in Mexico is on the table whatsoever. The wind shear should really keep a lid on this intensity-wise. Then there is the low-end threat, I think, too, especially depending on how this comes together at the surface. 4 tornadoes, 4 spin-up tornadoes. Usually anytime you have a landfalling tropical system or a tropical low, you have to watch for that, and we will be. So, again, the main takeaway right now, while the exact impacts are not locked in just yet, the threat for direct impacts is certainly increasing, if not looking likely at this time. Again, we're talking heavy rain, heavy storms from this starting late Friday, lasting into Saturday. So keep it with us here at ABC 7. We will, of course, be tracking this closely as we head through the next couple of days. Until next time, tomorrow, I'll have a full update here on Tropics Talk for you and everything going on out there with that storm in the Gulf of Mexico.